Welcome to Beyond Human, the last call. We have a big picture to try to portray to you. You don't know us. You don't know what we represent. Beyond Human might say something, it might not, but it says a lot to us.
It is intended for the entertainment and instruction of broad-minded adults only, and should not be played to or sold to minors under any circumstances whatsoever. Thank you.
Broadcasting from the floating pie pan in the sky at Groom Lake Analog Recordings. Welcome to Tarantula's Dream TV. Now here's your host, Samba.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another broadcast of Tarantula's Dream TV. I am your host,
Samba.
Here we go, everybody. We're here, Season 2, Episode 2. We're diving back into the Heaven's Gate cult over here on Tarantula's Dream TV, so let's get back into it. Phone number for the show is 520-704-7820 if you'd like to call in at 9:30, opening up the phone lines for open lines. So please save your questions, your comments, at least over the phone until 9:30, and we'll get into it around then. I hope everyone's doing well out there. We made it to the middle of the week, and the second episode of the season. I'm feeling good. Had a good day today, so I'm ready to dive right in. I hope everyone else is ready to dive in with me. So let's get into the meat of the night. There we go. Let's get into some of this night meat, this meat of the night over here. So on Monday, we were talking about kind of the genesis, some more of the foundational information when it comes to Heaven's Gate. We talked about Bonnie Nettles and Marshall Applewhite, Tea and Doe. We talked about some of their core belief systems. Essentially, Heaven's Gate is very much indebted to Christianity. It's essentially Christianity on steroids, and that steroid is extraterrestrial contact. So today, we're going to get into kind of some of the events that led them to some of the unfortunate events of 1997. So the first thing I want to get into over here is my main favorite paranormal broadcaster, rest in power, Art Bell. Now, in 1995, amateur astronomers Alan Hale and Thomas Bopp discovered a large comet. This comet, dubbed Hale-Bopp, is considered one of the brightest and most widely observed comets of the 20th century. For over a year and a half, this comet was visible to the naked eye. Now, in 1996, and this information comes from wikipedia.org, amateur astronomer Chuck Schrammick of Houston, Texas, took a CCD image of the comet, which showed a fuzzy, slightly elongated object nearby. His computer sky viewing program did not identify the star, so Schrammick called the Art Bell radio program Coast to Coast AM to announce that he had discovered a Saturn-like object following Hale-Bopp. UFO enthusiasts such as remote viewing proponent and Emory University political science professor Courtney Brown soon concluded that there was an alien spaceship following the comet. So what I have for you in this first little half of the show is I have some clips from the Art Bell program that this call came from. I have the call. And so this first clip I'm going to play is the actual call from Chuck Schrammick to Art, essentially detailing what he believes he found trailing Hale-Bopp. Now, I do want to say that this clip is a little long, but I do feel like it's important to play it in its entirety. This phone call and the announcement really helped sow the seeds with the Heaven's Gate group that their long-held belief that there would be a sign of their impending departure would be coming soon. So they were big fans of Coast to Coast. They were big, like a lot of people were, especially people into the paranormal and UFOs and whatnot. And when they heard this particular episode, it really sparked the events that would happen, just a year later. So this is the first clip from Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell.
All right. Well, My guest, Professor Courtney Brown, is going to have a lot to say about Hale-Bopp, and this is sort of a setup for that. You have just taken a photograph. When did you take it? Tonight?
I took it at 6 o'clock this evening.
6 o'clock. All right. Hale-Bopp is how big?
Well, actually, the nucleus, nobody really knows. Fairly small, they suspect, but I don't think anybody knows, although the envelope of gas around Hale-Bopp is several times larger than the sun.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
That's big.
That's big. That's really a big comet.
Yeah. All right. In this newest photograph you've taken, Hale-Bopp's going to come round the horn and be most visible April, May, something like that next year, right?
March, April, 97.
All right. All right. And I guess we all knew that, but a lot of people have felt something's going on with Hale-Bopp.
Well, I have too. There's been a real lack of pictures from the Hubble Space Telescope or any big observatories. And Art, I can tell you when they cut them off. It was about May, end of May, 96. And so that got me all the more curious. I can smell when they're...
Why would they do that?
Perhaps they saw something they felt might disturb people.
And now maybe you've got it on film.
Yeah, although this thing, what I photographed tonight, just showed up. I mean, I have pictures of the comet from last night and the night before. This is a big thing. Not far, I estimate maybe about 150,000 miles away from Hale-Bopp. Mm-hmm. If it is as far out as Hale-Bopp, I don't know, Art. It's in the same picture. I'm just making that assumption that it's out there in that neighborhood.
Yes.
It appears to be several times larger than the Earth. I'd guess about 4 times larger than the Earth. And there appears to be what looks like Saturn-like rings. They're very flat. It's almost as if we're looking at them on edge. And, I ran inside. I thought, no, it's just a star. And I have a computer-generated star map. I can tell ahead of time what stars are going to be in the background.
Right.
And there was no star there. I mean, just nothing. There's a couple of stars that show up in the frame to the right of Hale-Bopp, and those showed up, but this big bright thing did not show up. And I checked the date on my watch, and checked the date on the computer, and looked at the pictures coming in again. On the computer, I have a CCD imaging system, and my heart starts going faster and faster and faster, and I realized this is amazing. I'm photographing something that's actually out there that's big, and I don't have much of an observing window for Hale-Bopp here. It's about 30 minutes. But I saw it that whole time. I have perhaps 100 pictures of it.
What could it be?
Well, that might be an area for Courtney to get into. I have no idea.
All right, whatever it is, it would roughly, if it's in the same area as Hale-Bopp, would be roughly to scale it about 4 times the size of Earth.
And that's real rough. It's certainly larger than the Earth. That's a rough guess. I'll have to go over my pixels later and measure it more carefully.
All right. So if people want to see this image, it's on the website right now, and they can take a look, and we're going to talk to Professor Brown. I just wanted to get you on the air, Chuck.
Thank you, Art.
To let everybody know exactly what you have taken. And by the way, folks, most discoveries of this nature are made by amateur astronomers. Is that not true, Chuck?
Oh, that's absolutely. We're the only ones with enough time on our hands.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks, Art.
Take care. So there you go. That's Chuck in Houston, working for the FM side of our affiliate there, KTRH.
There you go. That was Art Bell, the classic Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell, and he was talking to old Chuck Schrammick of Houston. And apparently Chuck took some photos of Hale-Bopp and got a object apparently 4 times the size of the Earth, trailing the comet. So, like I said, this was the phone call. This was the episode that really kick-started in a lot of ways Heaven's Gate, the group, their belief that there was a companion to Hale-Bopp, a spaceship. Now, one of the core tenets of their belief is the fact that they will be essentially sort of abducted by a UFO, a benevolent UFO that was going to take them away and transpose their bodies or evolve their bodies to these like perfect heavenly beings. So this was the announcement that they were sort of looking for. This was the sign that they were looking for. Now, this next clip I want to play for you is also from the same episode. This is Art talking to Courtney Brown, who is he's a professor as well as a remote viewing proponent. Now, for those who don't know remote viewing, it's essentially apparently trained sort of psychics are kind of trained to view different locations or different places in the galaxy or on Earth, and are essentially able to kind of almost have like picture perfect scenes of just in their brain of different scenarios and whatnot. I don't know. There's a whole thing behind remote viewing that I'd get into in a different episode, but essentially this person, Courtney Brown, is really as a proponent believes in that they are a remote viewer. Now, this clip is also a little long as well, but again, this broadcast was a big part of tipping the dominoes over towards the events of 1997. So this is the second clip of Art Bell on Coast to Coast talking to Courtney Brown.
Now back to Professor Courtney Brown. Professor, did you hear Chuck?
I heard it, and I was actually delighted. He was a delightful guest and had lots of information from an astronomical point of view.
Well, Professor, what the hell is that?
Well, this goes back to one of your questions. Do you have professional remote viewers that do they target things together, and do they do it in a coordinated fashion? Well, after I went to I was notified about the picture that was on Mr. Schrammick's website earlier today, and the first thing we did is we called up 6 of our remote viewers, and we need 6, two each in order to do a session. We have a monitor that makes sure the session is going, everything's kosher in the session, and then the viewer is or herself. And so we set up 3 pairs, and we had 3 sessions that came in during that time, and literally they started around 8 o'clock. Actually, they started around, to be honest, they started around 9:30, 10 o'clock Eastern time, I believe, and the sessions literally just came in. And just before your show started, or actually as your show was starting just tonight, the 3rd session literally came in over my fax, and I have them in front of me. And we have 3 professional sessions of that object, that anomalous object that's trailing Hale-Bopp. We called up, one of our people called up a professor of astronomy at one of the nation's leading, absolute top 10 leading universities, a close personal friend, a professor in astronomy, and asked what's going on. And this professor of astronomy corroborated everything that Mr. Schrammick just said.
All right, well then that's another source, because he contacted Richard Hoagland, a guest I've had frequently, and Richard Hoagland apparently has been getting calls on exactly the same thing. Yeah. So obviously there's something to this.
This object is approximately 4 times the size of the planet Earth, and it's headed our way. And that's basically it. But I don't know how your commercial break is, but I'll start right now.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. Wherever there are beings, they organize themselves, and we now know that in the galaxy out there is something called a Galactic Federation, a council. Yeah. And this remote viewer went on to describe this. I'm going into the middle of the session. There's a lot of preparatory stuff that I'm just simply going to omit because of time.
Fine.
And this person perceived that this Galactic Council or some higher order was watching, very interested, like they were watching a hologram unfold. It's like watching an election return or something. They are all seated around a table in subspace, looking at a 4D or something like that. They're very serious about this event, which may be happening, going in a direction which is not that this event may go in a direction which is not evolutionary, but only time will tell, and time is of the essence, and many things are happening. By the way, the person did, of course, the stuff I'm omitting is accurate descriptions that the person did of this object and so on like that. There is a large object out there. It apparently is both, it has tunnels in it. It is both technological, artificial, and natural in the sense that it has rock as well as metal in it. It's humongous. It's absolutely large, and it is apparently moving in artificial means. It's not moving like a normal celestial body means. It's under control. It's a vehicle. It's moving, and it's 4 times the size of the planet Earth. This is a big ET thing. One thing you must say about the ET guarantees that when they decide to put on a show,
Oh boy.
There you go. That was Art Bell talking to Courtney Brown, a remote viewer, and essentially Courtney Brown was confirming this this object behind Hale-Bopp. Now, they went into even more detail. They said that it had tunnels, it was natural as well as artificial, it was technical. This was everything that Heaven's Gate needed to really just confirm that what they believed was right. So this was a big deal, this phone call and these interviews. This was really kicked off a lot of their beliefs. So I felt like it was important to play most of the interview. Now, the interview does go on longer, and in fact, before he even gets to Hale-Bopp with Courtney Brown, he kind of goes over remote viewing, and it's very interesting. So if you have any interest in listening to the rest of the episode, you can find this online. There are Art Bell archives, I believe, even if you subscribe to the Art Bell Insiders kind of like streaming service, you can get classic episodes with Art Bell. Now, the interesting thing about that is I didn't find this particular interview on the streaming service. I'm not a member or anything. But when these episodes eventually were tied to the events of 1997, a lot of these episodes were kind of scrubbed from the official archives because of sort of the implications of what these episodes kind of maybe seeded. So these are kind of an unfortunate blight on Art Bell's record, I feel. He got a lot of flack for these episodes a little bit later on. Now, Whitley Strieber, author of UFO abduction book Communion, was also wrapped up in the Hale-Bopp companion photograph, posting the photo on his website. Along with the photo, Strieber had this to say. Now, I'm going to put some of these photos up for you right here. Now, this is the photo apparently that showed the companion to Hale-Bopp. So here you are. It's a little kind of slideshow here. Now, it's kind of hard to describe, but that there's a bright star. Once the picture kind of comes around again, that's in the middle, sort of like towards the bottom left. That's Hale-Bopp. Now, see that bright, well, it's not a star, it's a bright light. The comet, that's Hale-Bopp. Now, in this particular photograph right here, the light that's immediately behind it is apparently the object that they believed was a companion to Hale-Bopp. So anyway, Whitley Strieber had this to say about the photo. The marked up version identifies the object nestled deep in the comet's corona immediately behind it. The clear version shows the same thing without the digital markings. To all appearances, this is a genuine astronomical photograph, and the very close proximity of the object to the comet makes it hard, but not impossible, to claim that the object is a star. So I'm going to leave this little slideshow up here while I continue with a little bit more on Art Bell. Now, Bell touched upon Hale-Bopp and its rumored companion a number of times throughout the year, inviting his guests to discuss the matter. One of his guests, Major Ed Dames, who's known also for his remote viewing predictions that ultimately were less than accurate, claimed that Hale-Bopp's arrival was to cleanse the Earth of the disease of mankind upon it. So Major Ed Dames had more of an apocalyptic view of the comet. Now, Bell's coverage of the Hale-Bopp companion theory has been linked to the Heaven's Gate's vehement belief of the Hale-Bopp heralding their imminent departure. Now, ultimately, the Courtney Brown photograph was shown to be a fraud and manipulated. Brown was subsequently banned from Coast to Coast AM after he was unable to provide an answer after the photo was proven to be fraudulent. Now, he did claim that the photo was given to him on film, but despite that, it was still proven to be fraudulent because celestial photography, especially photography of this magnitude, was being conducted digitally at the time. So they did have digital photography back then, so he wouldn't have received a photo like this on film regardless. So so it was a fake, unfortunately. So that again was not a bright spot on Art Bell's career. So that's that. Anyway, so let me check some of these comments over here before I take my little break over here. Looks like we got quite a few that I missed over here. 168 RPM. Hey, I was born in March. Eggs and Eyes. March is truly a cursed month. Now, don't say that, Eggs and Eyes. March is a fine month. Nothing wrong with March. I love the month of March. And like I said, many great birthdays are to be had in the month of March. So this is not a bad month. Leonza AZ, the great and powerful art. Yes, I love me some Art Bell. I have an Art Bell tattoo. Always been a big fan. He's my favorite inspiration for broadcasting. Trial and Error Collective, same. We got 2 quarantine birthdays. Look at all these people being born in March. See, March is just great. It's great for the chosen ones. Eggs and Eyes. Oh, hello there, Bill Elizondo. Hello, nice to see you on the chat again. Nice to see you on the stream. I miss you, buddy. Thanks for showing up and tuning in. 168 RPM sounds like a couple guys having a phone call in the Star Wars or Star Trek universe. Honestly, a lot of these kind of interviews kind of sound like that. They're talking about a lot of subjects that in the UFO community or the conspiracy community are fairly common, fairly well known. In fact, Courtney Brown mentioned the Galactic Federation. I've talked about the Galactic Federation on a number of episodes. It's a rumored collective of different extraterrestrial species from different planets and different galaxies that live in the galaxy, and essentially they're higher evolved beings that are just waiting for humanity to evolve mentally and spiritually to join them in the Galactic Federation. So he's speaking to he's preaching to the choir over here, this Courtney Brown. Let's see, Eggs and Eyes now. Art chats in the big radio station in the sky. He's Art Bell is not around anymore. He's sadly passed. So yes, he's calling all the big shot paranormal radio shows in heaven, if you believe in heaven or whatever is in the sky. Trial and Error Collective, stupid smarch weather. Love me some smarch weather. I don't know what you're talking about. Anyways, it's the bottom of the hour over here on Tarantula's Dream TV, so I'm going to play the Spumoni break from Monday, just in case you weren't able to get the phone number for the Spumoni answering service line, what you're thinking about with Spumoni. I also have this posted on my Instagram in a highlighted story, so if you do have any questions for Spumoni, here's the phone number. Here's my good friend. What you thinking about with Spumoni?
Hello, my fellow cosmic cohorts. My name is Spumoni, coming at you from the farthest reaches of the solar system from the Barnacle Nebula. What's on your mind? As I fly through the galaxy, crunching on kipper snaps, I have a lot of time to clear my head, and I think I've got a pretty good grasp on the inner workings of the cosmos. I have so much time, I'm opening up my phone lines for you, ready to answer all your questions. Want to know what lies on the other side of Pluto? How many stars you can fit into a toilet tissue roll? Relationship advice? Call now at 415-857-1154, leave a message, and I'll answer your questions live on air every Wednesday night. Time to get back to my hobby, punching microscopic dust mites. Call today, learn tomorrow.
There you go. There's my good friend Spumoni, old Spumone, good buddy. So yes, if you have any questions or comments, or just wanna leave a little shout out for my friend Spumoni, phone number for that is 415-857-1154. Again, 415-857-1154. It is 9:30. It is open lines. If you have any questions, comments, or you just want to talk to old Samba over here about Heaven's Gate or COVID vaccines or whatever you want to talk about, phone number for the show right now is 520-704-7820. So please give me a call if you'd like to chat. Anyway, let me check the chat one more time before we get back to the Heaven's Gate. Eggs and Eyes trying to get this TDTV merch, dude. Stickers. I honestly, I thought about that. I want to do merchandise. I don't know why. I just keep forgetting to merchandise, to promote. I don't know, maybe as my producer, maybe you got to help me. You got to remind me to do these little things. I'm too focused on eating delicious mushroom sandos and drinking coffee, and I don't even think about merchandise. But I should merchandise myself. How are people going to remember the show if I don't have like a cool bumper sticker or something? I don't know. Anyway, so let's get back into Heaven's Gate over here on Tarantula's Dream TV with your host
Samba.
There we go. And remember, it is open line, so please give me a call if you'd like to. So we were playing some Art Bell clips, and like I said, those were essentially the genesis of a lot of these, of kind of that kicks off a lot of the Heaven's Gate believing that Hale-Bopp, that was the symbol they needed. That was what they needed to kind of really push them towards 1997. Now, the next thing I want to get into over here is, now you saw it, maybe you saw it, maybe you didn't if you're tuning in a little late, but the intro of the show today was a clip from a video series that Heaven's Gate, the members of Heaven's Gate, put out called Beyond Human. Now, Beyond Human is a series of videos produced by the group to discuss their beliefs and help spread the word of the impending apocalypse. Now, the series consisted of 12 different videos, or what they dub as sessions, with Applewhite or Doe speaking with varying members of the group. Now, I do have a little supercut of some of the the videos, some of the Beyond Human videos. Now, the videos are fairly, I'm just going to say it, they're fairly dry and in my opinion, a little boring. The reason why I say that they're a little dry and a little boring is at this point in time, Marshall Applewhite and the group were trying to use these videos to spread their message, but they really laid it on very thin in regards to the UFO aspect of their beliefs. These videos tend to veer towards being mostly Christian in nature, mostly pretty traditionally Christian in messaging, and I'm not sure if that was because they felt as though that was the most successful way to get people to come to them or not. I don't know, but I did watch a handful of these videos. I didn't watch all 12. They're about an hour apiece, and so yeah, I just didn't. And like I said, they're a little boring, a little dry, and most of it is just Applewhite talking to the camera and just speaking his truth to him. And occasionally some of the other members of the group get on camera to ask him a question. But ultimately, it's the Marshall Applewhite show. So I'm going to play you a little bit of the super clip. I might cut it a little shorter than what I've cut, just because, again, it is a little dry. But here we go. This is the Beyond Human super cut.
Back in 75 or whenever it was that the door was open for the classroom, it was open for about a 9-month period. And in other words, there were meetings held and there was talk to the public for about a 9-month period. And that was in 1975. And from that time until now, it's been silent. Here it is again with these sessions that door is opening for a brief period of time. Now, why a brief period of time? That's what I'm trying to explain when I explain to you what happened to Jesus and what happened to his disciples. And as soon as Jesus left, and certainly by the time his disciples left, in order to survive the churches that continued to try to teach Jesus' teachings, they could not carry them out. They had compromised them in order to survive, because the world out there would have responded too negatively to people continuing to break from their human plants, separate, be grafts onto a heavenly vine, and not exist in the world. Yet, but I do know that the door has to be brief, that it will be open, and that for you to respond is that brief period of time. And beyond that, you won't be able to find us unless in the course of that, the world somehow or other forces us into a circumstance that would be easier for you to find us. T and I as individuals at the beginning were very, very moral individuals in our own standing, we felt like we were moral people. We felt like we lived very correct as far as how to treat our families, how to treat our neighbors, how to abide by the law. I can remember if I even had a friend that smoked a joint and pot was illegal, I'd have wanted to stop having anything to do with them because they were doing something illegal. We've used every diet in the book that you can think of.
Now, I do want to make a comment over here. One, so Marshall Applewhite was not a fan of marijuana. And in fact, a number of times throughout these videos, he talks about being offered marijuana in his past, turning it down, not wanting to be associated with anyone who smoked weed. So yeah, he was not a fan of weed. So anyone on the chat, I'm sorry, but Marshall Applewhite was not a fan of weed. And the second thing I want to get into is right now he's going to, the one thing I noticed when they were talking about their diets, which we talked about on Monday, is they kind of tried every diet, a lot of different diets under the sun, but he specifically focuses on on veganism in these particular videos. So I just thought that was interesting.
And for the period of time that we were using a particular diet, we thought, boy, I mean, in order to do it seriously, we really thought this is a super diet. I mean, we used a vegetarian diet. We used a fruitarian diet, not just for a few days. We were vegetarians for a long, long, long time. We were fruitarians for quite a while. We did water fasts for extended period of time. We've done juice fasts. We've done Hippocrates diet. We've done Gerson diet. We've done so many diets that, we ran out of books of diets to do. And we used every one of them while we were using it almost as we were devoted to it, testing this and testing that. But we really then began to realize that what we were really testing was we were liberating ourselves. We were liberating us from our own likes and dislikes. But I'm sure that the question of some of you out there who are listening to us and thought that on your path of enlightenment that it was so valuable to become a strict vegetarian, or maybe from your point of view of animal rights, that how could we justify consuming animals at all at any given time? And we had to deal with those same questions when it became instruction for us to consume those items. And then the more we realized that we can't question that instruction any more than when the Lord gave Moses certain instructions to go and kill the fatted calf in celebration for something in his relationship with those individuals. I mean, that was an instruction, and they did it, and probably they were put to the test because that fatted calf was such a precious possession to them. Well,
there you go. So I'm going to cut it off a little early, just because you kind of get the picture. So these Beyond Human videos, I'm not 100% sure how many people watched these videos and really connected with these videos. Again, they really leaned heavily into the Christianity aspect to it. I mean, he was very well versed in the religion, so they really leaned on that a lot, I think, to help kind of draw people towards their cause. Again, don't really know how much it worked, at least later on in their lifespan, because they were around for a long time. They're around since the 70s, but by the time I believe these videos were produced, they were kind of whittled down to maybe like a couple dozen. I think at least over 20, which is, I don't know, decent. I've never started a religion. I don't know how many people is a good number to have following you, but they were able to self-sustain themselves with that number of people, and that's it is what it is. Now, before I get into this next little video clip, I want to check this chat over here because it does look like it's popping off a little bit. Blob Dordo, hello there, Blob Dordo. Want that TDTV neck tattoo? Well, you know what? I mean, do I need to sell that as merch? Like, if you purchase it, do I have to pay for it? I don't know. How does that work? But anyway, you're free to get the TDTV neck tattoo, and if you do, you get free perks for life. I don't know what those perks are right now, but we'll figure out something. It's like getting an EG's tattoo or something. I think you get free EG's or maybe discounted slush beverages. I don't know. Eggs and Eyes knuckle tats. I mean, right there, boom. That would be sweet. TDTV right on your knuckle. Punch someone right in the face with my branding. Eggs and Eyes, his father was a preacher, right? Yes, his father was a preacher, as well as Bonnie Nettles came from a very religious family as well. It's interesting that she kind of veered away from Christianity during a little middle period of her life. On Monday, I talked about how she was into seances. She believed she had a spiritual guide, Brother Francis, I believe, who kind of helped guide her life early on. She studied theosophy, so they both came from very religious backgrounds, but it is very interesting that he, despite his father objecting to his homosexuality, he really stayed true to the religion in a lot of ways, at least in regards to teaching it and really believing in it. Billy Elizondo, his granddaughter was accused of poisoning her son. I don't know if that was mentioned before I signed on. No, that's the first over here on Tarantula's Dream TV. Thank you very much, Billy Elizondo. So his granddaughter was accused of poisoning her son. Wow, no, I didn't see that. I did not know that, but thank you for that little bit of information. That's wild, baby. That's wild. Anyway, so let's get back over here into Heaven's Gate. So next clip I want to play for you all is what is considered one of the last videos that was produced by Heaven's Gate. Now, this one is definitely less dry, and it's fairly well known amongst people who know about Heaven's Gate. Now, this was considered his final plea. Marshall Applewhite. Now, this video definitely skews away from trying to veil their UFO beliefs and kind of their really true core beliefs and what's going to happen to them or what they believe is going to happen to them. It's very very plain what he's preaching over here. So I'm going to play you another little supercut of what is considered Marshall Applewhite's final plea to those who he has not been able to save yet.
We came from distant space, and even what some might call somewhat of another dimension, and we're about to return from whence we came. And I'd say that when we say we came from distant space, that we're talking about what your religious literature would call the kingdom of heaven, or the kingdom of God. And we came for the express purpose to offer a doorway to the kingdom of God at the end of this civilization, the end of this age, the end of this millennium. And now that we're about to return, just a few things we wanted to say to you. And of course we are aware that if you have not been given an ingredient of knowledge, information by that kingdom, then you certainly will have no capacity to know that I'm telling you the truth. When we came, we had to take human bodies. We didn't take them as infants. We came into them in the mid-70s. My partner T and I came into our vehicles a few years before we began to help these come into their bodies. We call them vehicles. What do you mean, leave your bodies, our vehicles? Well, actually, these aren't our bodies, our vehicles. We borrowed these for the time that we were here, for this specific task. And the task was not only to bring in information about that evolutionary kingdom level, but to give us the experience of working against the forces of what this evolutionary level, what the human evolutionary level at this time has become. Now I'm going to splice this and show you some of this class.
So now before we get into the next little part of this clip, one thing I wanted to note was that when I was watching the Beyond Human videos, Marshall Applewhite, he's very impassioned. He wants to teach people who haven't quite come into the fold yet the beliefs of Heaven's Gate, and essentially trying to get people, to go up with him into the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God, who they believe is an extraterrestrial. By the time this video came out, he had, along with a lot of the other members of Heaven's Gate, they had shaved their heads or they've gotten fresh haircuts. He seems more solemn. He seems tired. You can tell his demeanor has changed for what is considered his final plea of the final exit. Now, when they, in this part of the video, they pan over to a large kind of collection of the remaining members of the group. I didn't put the full kind of panning of the whole group in there because it is pretty long, and essentially he just kind of introduces all the remaining members. And if you take a look at them, they are all very happy. They all seem to be jubilant because they know, or they believe, that the peace is coming, that they are finally going to be able to leave this world and evolve into these perfect spiritual beings that Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles was teaching about for decades. So I'm going to start this video again, but I just wanted to make a note of that, so when you're watching this, you can see and kind of feel that something has definitely changed in Marshall Applewhite.
Thank you. Okay, we're rolling tape, and the camera is on Jim Odie. Jim Odie, would you want to stand up?
And there goes those Odie names, by the way, too.
And so that we can take a look at your uniform. Okay. And maybe we can back up a little bit and get a little wider picture of the uniform. Okay. Good. Now come back, and if you would, and sit down, and now if you would hold your patch, maybe we can zoom in on the patch. Great. See, turn it the other way a little bit. If you know, the opposite way a little bit. There you go. Now we don't have, there we go. see, it says Heaven's Gate awaiting. And that's exactly what that means to us. We've been away, and now we're going back. Hi, Dave Odie. Look at the camera. You look great. Okay, now let's go to Alodi. There's Alodi, and you might want to... There, great. Okay, Alodi's done a lot of our super artwork on our website, and the illustrations you'll really enjoy if you tune into Heaven's Gate website on the internet. I had to bring up that we try always to qualify when we're identifying with each other and we're talking about the vehicle that we're wearing. We try to say our vehicle did this, our vehicle is experiencing that, meaning the body that we're wearing. And the reason we don't like the term body is because the vibration that humans use when they refer to their body, because it's like a very physical, very human vibration, much more so than vehicle is. It's more objective term. You can follow us, but you cannot stay here and follow us. You would have to follow quickly by also leaving this world before the conclusion of our leaving this atmosphere in preparation for its recycling. That would have to happen quickly. And don't forget that new civilization planted, next level will come again. They'll do planting, they'll relate to it, they'll have representatives, they will offer the same thing, how to get out of whatever that human civilization, that next human civilization might have become at the time that it's ripe enough for them to go in and begin to share information of the next level with them. Thank you.
There you go. That was a nice little distillation of this Marshall Applewhite's final plea, final exit for people who weren't yet followers of Heaven's Gate. One other thing I wanted to make note about that little supercut is the fact that at the very end he kept saying, or really wanted to emphasize, that if you wanted to follow them, that you were going to have to do it quickly. He knew what was happening, or he believed he knew what was going to be happening, and so if anyone wanted to follow them, it must be very quickly. Now, the final clip I want to play you is also from the Marshall Applewhite Doe's final plea, final exit. This one specifically, though, talks about suicide because they do acknowledge it. In fact, they still acknowledge it on their website, which we'll get into before the end of the program. But this shorter clip, he does address it directly.
I'm afraid I have to give you, we have a website, and on that website called Heaven's Gate, we have a little category in there that you can key on, and it says what we believe concerning suicide, or why we're against suicide, or I don't remember the exact title. But it explains that to us, suicide is when you have had life because you've connected with, you have received mind from the kingdom level above human, and you have been given that awakening mind so that you are aware of the truth about that kingdom level, and therefore have an opportunity to move out of the human kingdom into that kingdom level. And then when you turn against that, or when you cannot do what is required to identify with the mind and not with the body, can identify as something that is of that kingdom and not of this kingdom. If you can succeed at that and find no value of life here, but see this only as a training ground and as a stepping stone to move into that kingdom level, if that can occur to you, then you can go into that kingdom. And like I said earlier, or a few minutes ago, that is periodically offered. Now, if you're viewing this right now and you're hearing what I'm saying, and you might, after hearing this, you might go read the information, and then you might say, goodness, that's me, and they've gone. If you act quickly and you leave this world of your own choice, what? Go commit suicide? Suicide is separating from the kingdom of God when the kingdom of God has reached out and offered life to you. That is suicide. So to us, it would be suicide to not leave. The only thing that we're talking to you now about is to have you understand that we are returning to life. And we do, in all honesty, hate this world.
And there you go. That was honestly one of the parts of the video that really just struck me hard when I watched the entire video. I mean, essentially, you know, at this point, a lot of their previous videos, again, they really leaned heavily into the teachings of Christianity, kind of with a sort of top layer veneer of ufology and being a sort of a UFO religion. And by this point, they were openly advocating as suicide as the method to cross over through that open door that, according to Marshall Applewhite, was only open every now and then. So he was saying that eventually down the line it would be open again, but if you wanted to get in on this particular open door through Hale-Bopp, you had to do it quickly, and that meant you had to join in on a sort of, to borrow words from a different cult, a revolutionary suicide. Anyway, so we're coming here to the end of the program, so I do have a little bit more information before I check the chat over here. So in 1996, the group began living in a rented mansion in Rancho Santa Fe, California, or San Diego. The mansion was dubbed The Monastery, which housed the remaining Heaven's Gate followers. The mansion cost $7,000 a month to rent, which they paid for in cash. Now, the group kept to themselves, only leaving for short trips into the world. Now, this comes from LATimes.com. Even as they prepared to commit suicide because life in this world was no longer bearable, members of the Heaven's Gate cult enjoyed some earthly pleasures: gambling in Las Vegas, visiting SeaWorld, Mexico, and San Diego's Wild Animal Park, and taking a bus trip through scenic parts of Northern California and Southern Oregon. In Las Vegas, the cultists visited the Stratosphere Hotel amusement park in late February and won more than $20 at the slot machines. Dedicated penny pinchers, cult members ate at hotel buffets rather than restaurants. Now, this comes from wikipedia.org. On March 19th through 20th, 1997, Marshall Applewhite taped himself in Doe's final exit, speaking of mass suicide and the only way to evacuate this earth. Now, Applewhite persuaded 38 followers to prepare for this ritual suicide so their souls could board the supposed craft. Applewhite believed that after their deaths, an unidentified UFO would take their souls to another level of existence above human. Now, to kill themselves, members took phenobarbital mixed with applesauce or pudding and washed it down with vodka. Additionally, they secured plastic bags around their heads after ingesting the mix to induce asphyxiation. All 39 were dressed in identical black shirts and sweatpants, brand new black and white Nike Decades athletic shoes, and armband patches that read Heaven's Gate Away Team. Now, one of the many instances of the group's use of the Star Trek fictional universe's nomenclature. Now, each member had their had on their person a $5 bill and 3 quarters in their pockets. This was in reference to Huck Finn, in which it stated that it cost $5.75 to ride the tail of a comet to heaven. Once a member was dead, a living member would arrange the body by removing the plastic bag from the person's head, followed by posing the body so that it lay neatly on its own bed, with faces and torsos covered by a square purple cloth for privacy. So that's kind of the final image that I think a lot of people have of Heaven's Gate, as there is a video online taken when they were discovered. Now, I'm not going to play a clip from that video. I'm not going to play this video, as you are more than free to find that yourself if you'd like to watch it. It's not particularly gruesome or anything, but it is a video of all of them dead. So again, that is up to you if you'd like to watch that. Applewhite was also a fan of Nikes, and therefore the group got a good deal on the shoes. Everyone had to wear Nikes, and they liked the slogan, "Just do it." They pronounced it do as dough to reflect Applewhite's nickname. Now, the 39 adherents, 21 women and 18 men between the ages of 26 and 72, are believed to have died in 3 groups over 3 successive days, with remaining participants cleaning up after each prior group's death. Leader Applewhite was the third to last member to die. 2 people remained after him and were the only ones who would be found without bags over their heads and not having purple cloth covering their top halves. Now, the deaths from the group continued past those days in March as well. At least 3 former members of Heaven's Gate ultimately committed suicide themselves in the months after the mass suicide event. On May 6th, Wayne Cook and Chuck Humphrey attempted suicide in a hotel in a manner similar to that used by the group. Cook died and Humphrey survived this attempt. Another former member, James Perky Jr., committed suicide by self-inflicted gunshot wound on May 11th, and Humphrey, who had survived his first suicide attempt, ultimately succeeded by killing himself in Arizona in February of 1998. And that is the end of the story of Heaven's Gate, mostly. Now, I noticed in the chat that over here, Trial and Error Collective, you had mentioned the website, Heaven's Gate. So what I actually have for you over here is I have the website pulled up because it is still around. You're still free to just go to heavensgate.com. And like Trial and Error Collective had kind of noted, they still have the red alert over here, this little GIF of red alert. Hale-Bopp brings closure to Heaven's Gate. And on this website, it looks probably exactly the same as it did back in the 90s. I also believe that Totataban on the chat was kind of making note that they were very tech savvy. That's one of the reasons why I'm fairly fascinated with Heaven's Gate in general, is that they were essentially, I mean, not at this point, but back then, the only real UFO cult that had really used the internet to their advantage to spread their beliefs, to connect with people on bulletin board systems, which were essentially precursors to message boards, and really kind of took advantage of this new avenue for spreading information. So you're definitely free to go into heavensgate.com. They have different press releases by the group, the remaining members of the group, in regards to the suicide. They even have their position on suicide that Marshall Applewhite was talking about earlier. You can buy the Heaven's Gate book. You can either download it as, I believe, a PDF, or you can buy the book. Now, the book, I think, is like $40 or $50, so I didn't purchase it, but I do want to read it, so I might just download it at some point in time. And another thing of note is the fact that the group is now known as the Tela Service, or the Evolutionary Level Above Human, and they're based in Phoenix. So again, another tie to Arizona. So if you want to write them, their address is right here on the bottom of the website. So the remaining members, there's 2 of them. I believe they might be married. I don't know, but there's 2 of them, and they still operate the website. And with that, I'm going to get this off of here so you don't see my desktop. I actually contacted the Heaven's Gate kind of a while ago with a request to do an interview with them, and I wasn't sure if they were going to be down to do an interview. I know they have done interviews with different online publications, and I don't know if they've really ever done one for a documentary, but definitely with different online publications. And it turns out they do interviews, but they sent me this email, and I'm going to read it for you now. Now, I had just emailed them asking if they were down to do an interview and if they were down to talk live on air, or if they were interested in doing just kind of a sort of like a Q&A online. So I tried to leave the door open, no pun intended, to talk with whoever wanted to talk with me if they wanted to. And they actually got back to me fairly quickly. They said, "We do interview over email, but you would have to get the standard releases to use our copyrights and trademarks, which include using the term Heaven's Gate. Fair use does not include the use of our trademarks or copyrights, which includes tapes, audio, etc. Please help us in understand the context of use in this production. The licensing release document can be simple, like HBO Max, Stitcher, or ABC News, etc., used to get our permission. We would like to check the production for any mistakes, in fact, before broadcast, like we did with those other production companies, the Tela Foundation." And that's where my correspondence with Heaven's Gate ended. Of course, with the show being live, they were not going to be able to get any kind of authorization in regards to the content of the show. I don't want to edit the content of the show. I'm just essentially saying my opinions and using kind of, just readily available information online, as well as videos that they've put out themselves. So, I didn't really have any fear that they were going to have a problem necessarily with the show, but I don't know. I didn't really want to dive too deep into the legality of everything, so I just kind of left it at that. But they are available for interviews, and you can email them if you'd like, and talk with them if you'd like to do that. It's still being operated to this day, so they are still around. doing their thing. So there you go. That's Heaven's Gate. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to the show this week. I had a great first couple shows of season 2. I hope everyone continues to tune in. I'm going to be broadcasting every week here, and we're going to have some fun this season. Now, before I get off, I want to check the chat over here and see what's going on. Let's see. Trial and Error Collective, why are shaved heads such an iconic cult look? Is it just a sign of devotion? Clean nog, no fog from Billy Elizondo. That sounds about right to me, honestly. Clean nog, no fog, all the information getting straight to the dome. Trial and Error Collective, I also love that the website is still up. Oh, there you go. Yep. Bill Adordo, I'm sold. How do I get a hold of these guys? Well, there you go. I guess I answered your question. I probably should have read the chat before I got to that list a little bit. Billy Elizondo, who pays for the website? Like I said, I believe there's 2 remaining members of the group. I mean, I don't know. The website is pretty, I don't know. It's pretty classic in its design. I don't really know. They don't seem to be using a lot of bandwidth for the website. I'm sure that as the internet has matured, they've had to update it and the different technologies behind the website itself. So they're still fairly internet savvy. Maybe they were the most internet savvy, the tech savvy of the group, and that's why they had to stay behind. Iggs and Eyes, I think they actually built it themselves. You were correct. They built it themselves, and they paid for things for the cult with money they made from building websites, I think. Yes, I do believe I saw that in the HBO Max documentary. That's great, by the way. If anyone has HBO Max, please check it out. Billy Elizondo, that's kind of tight. I'm curious about the web hosting side. Like, is GoDaddy involved or what? I believe, and maybe I'll check this out at the end of the show. After I get off the air, and maybe I'll DM you Billy Elizondo, but I think you can do a reverse, like a who is search on their website, and it'll probably tell you who's the web host for that. Iggs and Eyes, yeah, that's an interesting question. Trial and Error Collective, the remaining members are still paying for the web hosting fees. I vaguely remember someone talk about that on the WNYC podcast. I will check out this podcast, Trial and Error Collective. Iggs and Eyes, seeing this at the Museum of Death in LA was really haunting. Yeah, on Monday, actually, Trial and Error Collective brought that up, asked me if, and asked the other viewers of the show if anyone had been to the Museum of Death and seen that. And yes, when we took that trip the other year, it was very weird. It's very weird to see that the bunk beds and kind of the recreation of the scene. Again, Heaven's Gate is a sort of a very pop culture, almost sort of event, the suicides, and it's very weird to think of a mass suicide as a pop culture event. I mean, it's like the one thing that a lot of people remember about them, and so seeing something like that at the Museum of Death, kind of presented in sort of an entertaining, for entertainment, but also educational. It's a very weird vibe. But yes, if anyone wants to check that out, I haven't checked out the Museum of Death since COVID. I'm hoping they're still around. It's a very interesting place, and I feel like there's some parts of that museum that are for shock value, but the Heaven's Gate little exhibit is very interesting. Trial and Error Collective, it really was. Actual bunk beds and everything. Yes, very crazy. Blob Dordo, typical Phoenix. Yeah, I'm right with you there, Blob Dordo. Phoenix, of course, they would... they'd stay to the north. They're not coming down to cool Tucson. They got to spread that shit in Phoenix. Trial and Error Collective, they got good PR. Yes, Totataban brought up a good point when I had got that email that they probably have a pretty decent kind of way to navigate the legal field, as the suicide has probably brought a lot of unwanted attention to the group, negative attention. So they definitely want to watch their back when it comes to being interviewed by different media organizations, or I'm not a media organization, but definitely they want to protect themselves at this point, even though it's the only two, and if it's only to protect the message to try to get more people to listen. And Billy Elizondo, nice. So there you go. Anyways, again, thank you all for tuning in to Tarantula's Dream TV, broadcasting every Monday and Wednesday from 9 to 10 p.m. And in fact, if you notice, we're broadcasting a little bit past 10 p.m. as I forgot to mention on Monday, but due to so many people streaming, Instagram actually upped the ante a little bit in regards to how long you can stream. So you can stream up to 4 hours now. So hopefully that means no more quick endings to these shows, and we can chat a little bit more if we want to. Anyways, I'll be back next week, same time, 9 to 10 on Monday. We're talking the Mothman, the big boy, the big mothy boy. As we dive deeper into our cryptid series, we talked about Bigfoot last season, and now we're starting it off with the Mothman, so please check that out. Anyways, this is Tarantula's Dream TV. I am your host, Samba. Please social distance if you can, wear a mask, and remember, it is a weird, weird world. Take care.